The old house on Elm Street had always creaked at night, but for 8-year-old Jake, the sounds were more than just settling wood. Every evening, as his parents tucked him in and shut the door, the real terror began. It started with the closet. At first, it was just a feeling, the prickling sense of being watched. Then came the shadows. Deep in the darkness behind his hanging clothes, 2 faint eyes would appear, unblinking. A small, slender figure would step forward, just enough to be seen, a boy, no older than Jake himself, but with a face swallowed by darkness. Jake would scream, his parents rushing in, only to find an empty closet. Just nightmares, his father would sigh. There's nothing there. But the boy kept coming. Some nights, the closet door would inch open on its own. Other times, Jake would wake to the sound of whispered words, play with me, hissed from the blackness. His parents heard it too. His mother once saw the door swing wide, as if pushed by invisible hands. Then, one winter night, Jake woke to cold fingers gripping his ankle. He kicked free, scrambling back as the shadow boy emerged fully, no longer hiding. The air turned icy. The figure tilted its head, then pointed to the closet. "Mine," it whispered. The family moved soon after. Years later, Jake learned the truth. The house's previous owners had lost a son, a lonely boy who'd hidden in that very closet during a game of hide-and-seek. He'd suffocated before anyone found him. And now, he never let anyone forget. The antique hallway mirror had always been Lila's mother's favorite. "It holds memories," she'd say, polishing its ornate frame every Sunday. But after the funeral, the mirror stopped reflecting the living, and started showing the dead. It began with fleeting glimpses. Lila, 12 years old and heartbroken, would pass the mirror and catch a blur of movement, her mother's floral dress, the familiar curve of her smile, only to turn and find empty air. At night, she'd tiptoe downstairs and stare into the glass, begging for a sign. Then, one rain-lashed evening, the mirror gave her one. Her mother's reflection appeared behind her, clearer than memory. Not the frail, cancer-ravaged woman from the hospital bed, but vibrant, young. She mouthed words Lila couldn't hear. When Lila reached back, her fingers met only cold glass. The sightings grew bolder. Her father heard his name whispered in his wife's voice when no one was home. Her little brother swore, "Mommy," tucked him in at night, though his bedroom door never opened. But the mirror was the epicenter. Lila's mother would appear when grief hung heaviest, her smile warm, her eyes sad. Once, she held up a hand, pressing it against the glass from the other side. The surface rippled like water. The final message came on Lila's 16th birthday. Her mother's reflection pointed urgently to the mirror's frame. Hidden behind it was a locket none of them had seen before, inside, a photo of Lila as a baby, and a note in her mother's handwriting. "Look after them. I still am." The mirror never showed her again. But sometimes, when the house is quiet, the glass fogs up, as if someone is breathing on it from within. Every child fears the dark space beneath their bed, but for siblings Noah and Mia, that fear had cold, grasping fingers. It started with the scratching. Each night, just as the house fell silent, something would drag broken nails across the wooden floorboards beneath their twin beds. Noah, the older brother at 10 years old, would lie frozen as the sound crept closer to his dangling hand. Then came the breathing, wet and rattling, like lungs filled with mud. Mia saw it first. Peeking over her blanket one midnight, she watched a gray, skeletal hand slither from the shadows. It gripped her bed frame, tendons creaking as something began to pull itself out. She screamed, and Noah saw it too. The thing retreated with a hiss, but not before they glimpsed its face, a sunken, lipless mouth stretched in a silent scream, and eyes like black pits reflecting moonlight. Their parents dismissed it as shared nightmares, until the bruises appeared. Purple fingerprints circled Noah's ankle one morning. Mia woke with dirt under her nails, though she'd never left her bed. The final straw came when their father checked beneath the beds with a flashlight. The beam caught something scuttling into the corner, but when he looked again, all he found were clumps of grave soil and a small, broken headstone fragment. The family moved that summer. Years later, Noah researched their childhood home. The land had once been Potter's Field, a pauper's cemetery. Records showed one grave, marked only J. Doe, age 8, had been disturbed during construction. Noah and Mia never slept with limbs hanging off beds again. But sometimes, when Mia visits her brother's apartment, they both instinctively lift their feet onto the couch, as if remembering, at the same moment, that things still crawl in the dark where they shouldn't. The old Victorian on Cedar Street had always been too large for just 3 people. 12-year-old Sarah would hear footsteps pacing the unused 3rd floor, her parents dismissing it as settling pipes. But on October 17, 1999, the house stopped pretending. It began at sunset. Sarah's bedroom door slammed shut with enough force to crack the frame. The temperature dropped so suddenly her breath fogged the air. Downstairs, every cabinet flew open simultaneously, plates smashing against the walls in perfect unison. Her father's shout cut off mid-sentence when something unseen yanked him backward by his collar. Then the whispers started. Dozens of overlapping voices hissed from the vents, all repeating the same phrase, "Get out." The chandelier in the foyer swung violently, casting strobe-like shadows that revealed a tall figure standing at the top of the stairs, a silhouette with hollow eyes, its neck bent at an impossible angle. Sarah's mother dragged her into the master bedroom, where they found the walls bleeding. Not blood, thick, dark embalming fluid oozing from the cracks in the plaster. The moment Sarah touched it, a child's handprint appeared beside hers in the sludge, smaller and far more decayed. They fled at dawn, never returning for their belongings. Years later, paranormal investigator Marcus Dean tracked Sarah down. The house had been Hartman Funeral Home from 1927 to 1943, where the embalmer had performed illegal experiments on bodies, particularly children. Over 30 unmarked urns were discovered buried in the basement. The house wasn't haunted, Dean explained. It was hungry. The new owners demolished it in 2006. Construction workers reported their equipment failing daily. One photograph survived the demolition, showing the outline of a tall figure standing in the empty lot, its hands resting on the shoulders of something small and hunched beside it. The house had become a living thing. Doors slammed like gunshots when no one touched them. Glasses leaped from cabinets, shattering in jagged constellations across the floor. Each morning, Alex woke with fresh scratches, thin, angry lines raked across their arms as if by invisible claws. The psychic, a woman with tired eyes and trembling hands, barely made it past the foyer before recoiling. "They don't want you here," she whispered, clutching her pendant. Asterisk, "You're digging up their graves just by breathing their air." Asterisk. As she fled, the front door locked itself behind her. That night, the bathroom mirror fogged over while Alex showered. They wiped it clear, and froze. Scrawled in frantic, finger-dragged letters across the glass. "Get out." The words dripped like blood, though when Alex touched them, only water smeared their fingertips. Behind the message, the reflection of the hallway showed all the bedroom doors swinging open in perfect unison. Alex packed in a frenzy, throwing clothes into suitcases as shadows thickened in the corners of the room. The air grew heavy, pressing against their eardrums like deep water. A crash from downstairs, the radio blared static from the kitchen, dials spinning wildly. "You can go," whispered a chorus of voices from the walls, the floorboards, the very air. Alex dragged their bags toward the door as the temperature plummeted. Frost crackled across the windows. The whisper followed them onto the porch, curling into their ear like smoke. Asterisk, "But we'll always be here." Asterisk. As Alex's car peeled away, every light in the house flickered on at once. In an upstairs window, 3 silhouettes watched them leave.